Hello. Welcome to our fourth podcast. Man, we've done four already. That's great. Um, welcome to the Unlikely Twins, where we talk about whatever's the latest and greatest anywhere in the world. That could be politics, that could be music, that could be any big happening anywhere in the world.
Sports,
Um,
culture.
Sports, culture, politics. We have no topics. We just tend to focus on what is the latest and greatest at this moment. And then you may wonder why we are called the unlikely twins, because unless you are, unless you have 2020 vision, you can probably tell that we are not twins. Even though the haircut's very similar at the moment. Uh, but no, we just share the same birthday, but I'll let Roscoe finish that. Oh, so I'm Rohan. This is Roscoe. Uh, our birthdays are on the same day. However,
Yeah, Rohan's obviously my elder brother. Um, he was born first naturally. Um, so
in the previous life,
we've come together. We have similar views. We tend to gravitate towards similar positions, not the same. I think that what taking into account that what we're discussing is our own opinions. We do a bit of due diligence, making sure that we've got the right end of the stick, but keeping it in mind that some of these views and some of these values may not align with yours, but there'll be an interesting viewing. I fully subscribe to giving the people what they want. So at the end of the day, let us know in comments. Let us know if what we're saying is differing to your views. If you've got a different take, we'd love to hear it. If you agree, we'd love to hear that too.
and
Um,
also
but
if you have more information that we may not have looked into, please also share that in the comments.
anything that you can do to enhance the channel would be greatly appreciated by us. And any comments, any subscribes, any differing of views, all of that makes for enhancement in our views. We'll take any constructive criticism. We'll certainly take any compliments, and we really appreciate any subscriptions, any likes, any promotions that you might make or referrals to our channel. And we're doing this really as a labour of love. There's currently no promotions, no money driven. Any views are based solely on people like yourself taking
Very
the time
fresh,
to
very
look
fresh.
this over, and we do really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So one of the topics that we want to talk about today, which is circulating a lot online, is about the rapper and producer P. Diddy. With everything that's going on, there's been some there's obviously a lot of detail about what he being charged about and what has caused the interest of I believe it's FBI that raided
Mhm.
his mansion. And I think from my understanding is he has two mansions, one in California, one in Miami. They have both been raided to get his hard drives, surveillance camera feeds, mobile phones of the people living there, just to get as much information around the sex trafficking that I believe is the biggest charge on him. That he's and I guess there was some news initially that he's trying to run away. He's on a jet. He's going to one of the other countries that doesn't have an
Extradition, yeah.
extradition to US. However, that turned out to be false because he was in Miami. And I'm not sure if he's turned himself in, but he wasn't arrested. But he is cooperating with the authorities, so to speak. Um, but yeah, it's a very, you know, we're seeing this a lot lately. We're just seeing this a lot. Like in the last 4 or 5 years, there's a lot of this sex trafficking, sexual abuse of minors, from these big names in the industry, that are getting caught. Uh, I mean, I'm guessing in years gone past or decades gone past, these people just got away with all of these things. However, now it seems like they're getting caught, and there is no escape. And I'm guessing social media has a lot to do with it. Um, but it's very interesting. Like, we've seen it with Jeffrey Epstein. We saw it with Harry Weinstein.
Yeah.
We've seen it with you know, the CEO of wrestling,
Yeah. Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon, and we saw it with R. Kelly,
Hmm.
uh, and yeah, now we're seeing and these are all huge names, and now we're seeing it with P. Diddy, um, and yeah, it's just it baffles my mind. And if I look at if I try and find a common denominator between all these people, besides the fact that they are or were extremely successful to the point that they were the 1% off the 1% off the
Yeah.
1% in their field. Um, all these people were towards the end of their careers.
Hmm.
When you look at Harry Weinstein, you know, I'm not sure how many more movies he had it in him.
Hmm.
You look at Jeff Epstein, I don't know what was he doing besides the sex trafficking at the time. Um, you look at Vince McMahon, his career was pretty much over as a
Mm.
CEO of wrestling, the entertainment industry of wrestling. You look at R. Kelly, he was no longer the best R&B singer. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, you look at Diddy, and he's no longer the most sought after artist that he was maybe 20 years ago. Riding the coattails of b.i.g, of
Hmm.
Notorious b.i.g. So these are all very successful people towards the end of their careers,
Hmm.
who I feel are still trying to have a stronghold of control, which they cannot get in their industry anymore. So they are trying to exercise that on people.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That's the only common denominator I can see amongst all of these people. These are all people who were extremely particular about the way they went about. They were tyrants in their fields.
Hmm.
They never took no for an answer. And I think once they're losing that control, I think it's that, just trying to hold on to some control now they've lost it, or they don't have that kind of pull in the industry, or people are not so much in awe about them anymore. Their fame is dwindling, and then it seems like these people who possibly have other insecurities, I'm sure they do, uh, and coupled with that, we are finding them getting indulged in this kind of in this kind of way, and just dwindling their good name that they had in the industry within seconds. you know?
I have a theory too, and it's not dissimilar to yours, Rohan, but I think it's something even more awful. Um, I think it's like in nature, you have the alpha male. The alpha male can really do no wrong. He can do whatever he likes in the wild, whether it be alpha dog, alpha silverback gorilla, whomever it is. So if he, misbehaves or goes outside is too tyrannical, too whatever, if he's the alpha, he can basically still get away with it all. And the power structure, whether it be the tribe, whatever, the supporting pillars of that society will still hold him up. But when the alpha weakens and it looks like, he's suddenly at all vulnerable, that's when the power structure that supported him starts pulling away pillars. I think that's what's happened. And I think everyone knew Epstein was a dirtbag. Everyone knew he was having sex with young girls and
Well,
all of that kind of thing.
I think that's the thing. I don't believe everyone knew about Epstein.
Oh, I think that they did, and I certainly think that they did with Weinstein too. They knew of the casting couch with
I think
Weinstein.
Harry Weinstein for sure. But I think with Jeff Epstein, only the elite who were invited to his island were the ones privy to what was going on there.
Mm.
I don't think it was and I'm guessing the same with Harry Weinstein as well. It was only the actors, some of the top actors who had
Oh,
it early, you
I
know.
think I think that there's knowing and then there's the rumor mill. I
Mm.
think that it's probably was a poorly kept secret that these people were the kind of people that they were, or there were insinuations, but no one was prepared to really dig into it, and the people that could do anything about it simply didn't.
I think it was just
Um,
like a dull raw kind of thing.
yeah, it's like the B grade actor might have an understanding of who Weinstein is, or the C grade actor who's trying to get a job has an idea of who Weinstein is. What you'd need to do to get Weinstein is kind of whispered in hushed tones. If you really want a job, go to Harvey Weinstein. But be aware you might have to do X, Y, Z. Ha ha ha. I think that's probably how it's been set up. But the people who actually know, who've seen him, who've associated with, who've spoken to him, who've set up these meetings or whatever, they'll know. But I think in the general industry, out a couple of degrees of separation, I think that a lot of people would have known, and maybe not known in 100% actuality, seen it, heard it, witnessed it, but known that that was kind of on the cards. And they probably did that with Epstein. They probably knew about R. Kelly or suspected there was some weird business, with underage kids floating around, and who exactly
What
were
was
that.
it?
We were
Well,
pretty sure.
With R. Kelly, I remember because I think he got arrested early last year. I can't remember exactly when he
Mm,
got arrested. But there was a video of him that was leaked out of him performing a sexual act on a 16 or 17-year-old girl at a club. And that was like a video that was published and it was pirated around. And this was, I'm
mm,
talking over 10 years ago.
mm.
It was pirated. So it was a known fact. And I think you're absolutely right. Like with someone like him, um, I mean, it was a known fact that he was doing what he was doing, and I think it just seems like the advent of social media is speeding their demise. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's like incredibly speeding their demise. Um, but yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. I think these guys just live in a bubble where, and I think it's going to change now. I think with this Diddy situation, and there's been so many of these people in the recent years. Obviously, they were trying to catch Andrew Tate with something similar as well, but the charges haven't really stuck on him.
No, and
Uh,
I don't think they will. I think Andrew Tate,
yeah,
his big crime was the fact that he upset quite a few people. I think that's really what his
yeah,
crime was at the end of the day. But I do think that that you're right, and I do think that with social media being the vehicle that it is, it's just getting bigger and bigger. I think that a lot of people get thrown under the bus, like Andrew Tate, unnecessarily, and people have to be able to roll with it and wither the storm to some extent. Um, but the other thing is that I still believe that if it comes down to it, if they get, let's say they get Diddy, they might, if they can take down just him by himself, they'll do that. If if they can really get one or two other scapegoats, they will, and they'll probably won't be people of real significance or people who are kind of a little bit on the outs already. Similar to the Epstein thing, that they're looking at Prince Andrew, who everyone, you know, has who has a dark cloud over him, let's say. They looked at Stephen Hawkins, who was dead, all of that kind of thing. So
Bill
we know
Clinton
that,
as well. Bill Clinton.
yeah. So
I think there was some. I think someone mentioned Michael Jackson as well.
yeah, but I mean, Michael Jackson is dead too. You know what I mean? So the people
Yeah.
that they're going over is quite low hanging fruit. It's not someone that's a big name like you wouldn't ever hear someone saying someone like they're investigating I don't know who's a big name person like Beyonce or The Rock or someone like that. It would be someone who's if they get Diddy, they might get one or two other people, but there'll be people that B or C grade actors, maybe one or two of them, and they'll be thrown to the wolves. But I think that what that means is, in my view, and this is just what I'm thinking, is there's probably a lot of eyes wide shut type of parties. There's probably a lot of um, really seedy things going on. People who trade off morality for power in those kind of positions, who've fought hard to get to where they are and used every conniving, horrible trick to get where they are used to power, are used to, you know, the attention and all of that kind of thing, are driven by money and greed, who are and who are used to people doing things for them, and who are likely to get into that kind of lifestyle where they can do whatever they like and get away with it. And I think that the fact that they might get one person here or one person there or a person associated with someone else
And
doesn't mean they're getting
yeah,
to the crux of that issue. I think if there's sex trafficking, there's going to be buyers and sellers and procurers of these people. I don't think P Diddy comes to a party having rounded up, all the underage girls
yeah.
and brought them in
And
to
also,
use on
like,
himself.
it just to me, it seems like, and to add, there are also stories about very wealthy um, Saudi Arabian men also seem to be indulging. Obviously, I'm not going to generalize, but being as someone from India, I've always heard stories of, say, when Indians are traveling to Saudi Arabia,
Mm-hmm.
and if, say, there's a woman that's a very attractive woman that's traveling to those parts of the world, there is an element of risk that
Mm-hmm.
they can do whatever they want. You are in their country,
Mm-hmm.
do whatever they want. There's always been that kind of a scare. Um, well, I'm not sure. I don't believe it's there anymore, or it's not as much, but I'm talking like maybe 15, 20 years ago. And again, These are people who are extremely wealthy, possibly living on oil money,
Hmm.
not doing anything. And I think it tends to be. I would love for someone to either write a book or do a case study on all these people that we named.
Mm.
What do they all have in common?
Mm.
And why is it that? And then when you look at, say, you know, Jeff Bezos, you look at Elon Musk, okay? You look at Jack Ma, or these similar people with similar power and wealth. Um, you know, um,
What would make them immune?
the late Steve Jobs,
Hmm.
the current CEO, Tim Allen. No, what's his name? Not Tim,
I know who you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Tim something. I can't. The name escapes me for some reason.
Hmm.
Yeah, like these people have goals that they're trying to achieve. You know what I mean? Like their goals haven't stopped. Like they build new goals. Once what it is, you take Elon Musk, for instance.
Hmm.
He's always got something new in the pipeline going. He's never sitting idle. He's never sitting on the successes of his last project. Sure, he's young, so he can do a lot more. But I wouldn't say Diddy is very old. I wouldn't say R. Kelly was old. I
No.
wouldn't say. So it seems like they have obviously there is something very early in their lives that led them to this path. Either be it a relationship with someone when they were young that sort of twisted their mind in some ways. And then after achieving all this success, that issue never really goes away. And on top of that, now they have all this free time, and that negativity that's possibly has been looming for such a long time is now on overdrive. You have all this time now, and you have all this wealth, um, and you have nothing to focus your energies on. And
I mean, in the event that I think that would be taking the view that they started this on on like the crest of their the last of their
oh,
glory days.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I would say this is something that started very early in their lives, but but it was put on hold. It was put on hold because of other priorities in life. And I think those priorities in life took, an enormous amount of their time. And it kept them busy. It kept them away from that looming thing in the back of their mind for a long time. And then as their careers slowly started to dwindle, at the same time they started, I guess indulging in those activities. And
Do
again,
you think?
it's just me, assuming, you know,
Yeah,
and I would love for someone to do a case study where they go through their lives with a fine-tooth comb and sort of understand when did these allegations start, where were their careers at that time, and that's where I believe there is. But there's also the element of, yes, they had a lot of support, so a lot of people were covering their tracks for them.
yeah.
Then and then it stopped. That's also a possibility. But to be doing as much, say, let's take the example of Vince McMahon.
Mm,
From what other wrestlers have talked about his work ethic,
hmm.
how deeply involved he was at his job. You don't expect a person like that to have the time to indulge in all those activities because he's trying to compete with other forms of wrestling. He was trying to compete with boxing. He's trying to compete with UFC at the time. So all these things were like, when you're focused on your goals, and if you look at, say, even Diddy, back 20 years ago when he was super relevant, he was, he was competing with Jay-Z, he was competing
Mm.
with Dr. Dre, he was competing
Mm.
with, all these big names in the industry. Um, and as he became more and more irrelevant, um, because if anything, these guys are more wealthy now than they ever
Mm.
were.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My whole
The
thought.
influence will be so whoever was covering their tracks, they
Mm.
have more money to give to those people now to cover their tracks. So if you look at all of these people, Harry Weinstein, Jeff Epstein, when they were caught, they were at their most wealthy.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, I mean, bar R. Kelly, I would say R. Kelly wasn't at his financial best. However, all
Mm.
these other names, they were at the top of. They had never been more successful financially.
I think there's three things that make a person that powerful. One is their well, maybe four things. So you've got their natural charisma and drive and that kind of thing. There you have their money, you have their status, how people perceive them, how powerful people perceive them, and you have their I guess rank or status in their industry. But I think one of the big things there is status. If people see the grizzled grey silverback is no longer uh, uh, grizzled um, and tough and everything, they're starting to look a little bit vulnerable. Then the money isn't going to save them. The their rank in the industry isn't even going to save them. They're if they're vulnerable, they're they're fresh meat, and I think that's what may be happening. I think that probably what they're doing was what they're doing, and that they've probably been doing it for decades and getting away with it. And they're getting away with it because they were still seen as tough. But as soon as there's an opening, people people rush in and they take them out. And whatever that, if people think that they can, take their scalp, it's a big scalp to take. Um, Vince McMahon, I mean, let's say that he goes from being, the person that intimidates and everything to suddenly being seen in some respects as a little old man. You know, all it needs is that impression, and suddenly, even though for maybe a decade or even 2 decades has been getting away with these kind of actions, suddenly it's like, hang on, he's not really that intimidating. Look at him. He's a man in his 70s. He's no longer
80s.
80s. Sorry, I was wondering. I was thinking it was late 70s, but it's actually 80s. So
Could be late 70s, but I thought
yeah,
it was early 80s.
yeah. So, but in either case, that's getting on the older side of things. Is no longer. I mean, even Vince McMahon at 65. I mean, he was huge. He was fit. He was huge. He was powerful. He was he was as I mentioned an alpha male.
Yeah.
But an alpha male who's old and suddenly vulnerable can't be an alpha male. He's got to get ousted, and he plays by the laws of the jungle. He'll get eaten by the jungle eventually. When he gets too old to defend himself, unless he gets out of that way. And he didn't retire gracefully into the night. And so they came for him. I think that's what happened. And I think that in my view, he probably didn't stop what he was doing. He was doing the same things, but there was less focus on the things that he was actually famous for, and he kept doing the things that were going to get him into trouble eventually. And it was just when he lost the status in other people's eyes, the ability to keep himself protected, to drive off, unwanted eyes or unwanted attention, or to scare people, to intimidate people. Suddenly, he's vulnerable,